What's going on, everyone, and welcome to the KoloCast, a weekly podcast here from us at the Kolosseum, where we get to know someone in the community just a little bit more. And my name is Mr.Aquaman, your host and purveyor of the Kolosseum, and my guest, as always, my co-host, is none other than Flashyy over there. What's going on, Flashyy?
You just call me the guest?
I did. I'm sorry.
You called me the guest?
Listen, we can redo the intro, but
No, we're not.
No, we're not.
Last week I was talking about how you didn't roast me, but this week you called me the guest. Listen, it's all right. Speaking of the guest, I'm doing great. Thank you for asking. But our guest here today is going to be an interesting one. We got a little bit of a different viewpoint to look at today. We have an individual from a company that you have definitely heard of if you're in the fighting game community. They are from Hitbox. And without further ado, let's get to know them a little bit more. Hitbox, Cameron himself. How's it going, man? Welcome to the show. Please tell the people a little bit about yourself.
Hey, thank you, Flashyy. Thank you, Mr. Aquaman. I'm doing great. It's nice and cold here in Vegas at a whopping like 60 degrees. I'm Hitbox Cameron. I'm the titled as the community manager for Hitbox, but as we all know in this this market, this community, that everybody's wearing multiple hats. I guess as a sort of short story of who I am or how I got here. I'm trying to shorten it here, but because I don't want to be like Rip, where I'm taking up the 75% of the episode of one story. But
if you had Rip's voice, I wouldn't mind it at all. By the way.
Well, yeah, no, for sure. So I come from Smash Brothers. Let's start with that. I was a competitive Smash Brothers player, mostly Melee. That started obviously way back in the day with the first Smash Brothers, playing with friends, playing with my brother, wanting to kick everybody's ass in that game. I grew up in a small town of about like 4,000 people.
Wow, same.
In northern Idaho. And I didn't have anybody to play, so I had to force people to play. And usually how I did that is I ran tournaments. So not just with Smash Brothers, I did it with Halo 2, Halo 3, even Madden back in the day.
Ooh. And
so I had a drive to bring people together and play games because I wanted to play games. All this led me to Vegas, moved here, competed here. This is where I got decent at Melee. I say decent, I think I was like top 12 ever here. Ran tournaments, eventually realized that the FGC scene here was pretty good. Heard rumblings of this company called Hitbox making this unique controller that was all buttons. I was like, oh, that's cool, I guess. At that point, it didn't really affect me. But eventually I befriended Dustin, who's one of the co-owners of the company. And he was at a Melee event doing some recon on the Smash community and trying to learn the game so he can better develop the Smash box, which is a Smash-oriented Hitbox controller, right? And that intrigued me right away. Once I learned that information, I was totally on board, because back in high school I broke my wrist playing baseball, and I had issues playing on the GameCube pad in Melee. It just pain after like 20 minutes of playing, and it was not fun to deal with. So I tried talking to him more, trying to meet the Hitbox team. Eventually annoying them enough with, hey, I'm willing to help you guys, where they asked me to be a part of their sort of pre-testing program for the Smash box. I was able to provide input on it. And because of my experience on the controller, they invited me to EVO 2018 to work at the booth with them. That was their first official booth, I believe. And I was scheduled for, I think, 8 total hours over that weekend to work at the booth, and I think I worked 18 because I had such a good time. I loved interacting with all the people coming to learn the controllers. I was learning how to use the Hitbox at this booth, and talking to just a range of people learning this stuff. It was really really fun for me, and I got a lot of meaning out of it. And I got to know the brothers a lot better, Dustin and Sean, the co-owners, and it was just a fun time. And then 2 weeks later, they give me a call. Hey, you want to have breakfast with us? We want to talk about something. And it was a short breakfast because I had to go to my other job at that point. And basically said, hey, you want to help us with getting community connections in the Smash community? I was like, absolutely. This is exactly what I wanted to do with you guys this whole time. And community stuff is, totally up my alley. And so I started with them as a part-time, mostly emailing people, just trying to get events together where we sponsor or host or have demonstration booths. And that led into a full-time job of being community manager, into social media, into testing whatever comes our way, into shipping, receiving, all over the place. And that's where I am now, where I'm, everybody knows me as Hitbox Cameron now. So that's where I'm at.
It's become part of your personal brand. Absolutely.
Yeah,
That's really awesome. It just goes to show how crazy networking can be. Because you said what? You randomly met this guy at a Melee event, and now here you are 3 years later wearing all these hats. But I want to speak to that idea of wearing all these hats. What are some of the challenges that you find working at a company and having to do, kind of play this jack of all trades kind of role? What are some challenges that you found to come along that maybe you weren't expecting, or you were expecting but you weren't ready for? What are some of those things?
Well, the first thing that comes to mind is time management. How I like to think of it is it's a priority management technically. It's understanding, what needs to be done first, and that sort of fixes the whole time management stuff. But some stuff I didn't expect was how much I would enjoy some things, like I'm gonna just say this out right now. I hate social media. And
yeah, I do.
Yep.
Yeah, I hate social media, and that's my personal sort of take on that. But I've learned, like, there's an art to it, and I really like that art of being able to, like, sort of make cool posts. That sounds super lame, but there is something enjoyable in that, being able to, like, cater content in a specific way, and interact with the people who do interact with the profile and everything. Beyond that, I found out, or I've really fully realized here, that being put in a leadership position is really good for me. I fit the role really well, and leadership in, like, helping community stuff. Obviously, I had done that volunteer based back in the day, but also, with many hats means people are leading a lot of directives and projects. And what I've just been able to fall into is, whenever something is under my umbrella, I've been very good at making sure I take lead and, put people in the right direction or drive them in the right direction. And that is something I'm glad I realized, because that sort of gets me an idea of who I can be in the future,
As you were saying, Cameron, when it comes to social media, I'm right there with you, man. If I didn't do what I do, if I didn't have to interact with people in order to get them to try to watch something or follow, like, or subscribe to something, I don't think I would touch it either, man. I would be everyone thinks I look like Ron Swanson, but I might actually be, if I didn't do what I do for a living here in the fighting game space. I'd be in the woods. I'd be chopping wood. If you asked me where I was, I would try to hunt you down, because social media really is, like, when you look at it, it's such a draining aspect of our lives that I've seen throughout the years. And how crazy is it, Cameron? Because you had to have watched it, right? CEO just happened this past weekend. And how crazy is it? It resonated with every single person that went there, and the first thing that I saw from so many people when they got home or while they were there was how different it was than what we experienced as the fighting game community, or this competitive gaming space online versus
Yeah.
offline. And that was such a release, or such a relief to see from a lot of people, was them getting that kind of, escape from social media and back to a nice positive space here in the fighting game community. I thought it was beautiful.
Mhm.
Yeah. No, it filled my heart with joy of all the people on social media
Yeah,
really expressing that this was different.
We saw it
It
on
was
social media,
different.
but yeah.
It was different from what we've been experienced for the past, one and
Mhm.
a half years.
Mhm.
Um, and just getting back on that same page for a lot of people, because I'm sure that was the first event for a lot of people. That it just that it's amazing that people felt that.
Yeah,
That's all that really mattered from
yeah,
that event, as
it
far
was
as I
amazing.
cared. Yeah.
I 100% agree. And you also talked about how part of your job is getting, reaching out and sponsoring fighting game events.
Mm.
One of them happened to be the Kolosseum, which was my favorite thing ever, because this is a product that, I mean, it sells itself. You're watching a fighting game tournament and you're like, are you like me and you suck ass at inputs? Hitbox.
Yeah.
There you go.
There's your answer. There's a solution.
I just did a
Yeah.
hitbox ad right there. It was super simple and easy, guys. If your inputs suck,
Yeah.
try Hitbox. And if you want to know why, it's because it takes away your ability to fat finger 17 inputs on a D-pad, which is
Yeah.
fantastic. And but to that, where you're sponsoring events, how does it feel? Because you guys have been sponsoring a lot recently. A lot of onlines. We just saw you. I don't think you guys had a booth at CEO, or unless you did, but you
No.
guys were one of the sponsors of CEO as well. Um,
Yeah.
how does it feel to kind of be one of the, in my opinion, you're at the forefront in the past year of keeping competitive spirits alive within the fighting game community, and it just hasn't been, what you're known for, which is Smash,
Yeah.
Tekken, Guilty Gear, Mortal Kombat. It's been crazy. How does that feel?
Well, I do want to mention real quickly about the Coliseum thing. It was pretty crazy that we sponsored the event, and your first two commentators you worked with were Hitbox players as well. Just
Yep.
it was insane that happened. But yeah, the one of the working with FGC coming from Smash is interesting. There's a lot of differences, but I don't. There really isn't a lot that really changes how you would approach any of it. Obviously, the player base is a little older
Yeah.
for, compared to the general Smash scene. Um, but I don't know. It's just people love their games, and that's what I'm aiming for, is trying to figure out who loves their games, right? And I guess I'm glad you guys noticed that we were supporting a lot of people over the pandemic, especially uh, no thanks to me. Spending all that money is not the easiest choice to make as a business, but I saw it as an opportunity for Hitbox to start doing what the brothers did in the past. And this little history lesson here: Sean and Dustin, um, as they were developing the Hitbox and as the Hitbox was becoming a thing, were running events in their garage every Wednesday night, where up to 80 people were in a single 2-car garage
Ooh.
playing fighting games. And you can imagine how that smelled.
I I hope that they left
You
the
could
garage door open because it had to be hot. It.
Oh, dude.
no, and I wasn't here for this, but I've seen pictures of it where it's just people are just filling up this garage with dozens of setups, and playing so many. Marvel was the biggest game for them at that time, but so many games were being played. Like there was no gatekeeping, there was no filtering. It was just show up and play, and be part of the community. and I wanted to tap into that again as a business, because that's how the brothers are. They're givers. They always have been, and sort of tapping into that old school days when they were doing that and trying to do that with the overall FGC. And really, I started understanding that that approach works with working directly with the community members making content or running the events. And through many different contacts and all that, it led to the Kolosseum, right? You guys are doing, I'll keep saying, you guys are doing incredible work. All of you guys, I love the events, and to QR as well, the stuff you did with our ad was
He's a
amazing.
wizard, man.
He is a wizard. But yeah, it's just, we saw an opportunity where we knew that money would be short for a lot of people, and we were lucky enough we were impacted for sure. There's no doubt about that, but we were lucky enough that people like playing video games when they're closed off from everybody else, and so we still had people wanting to get hitboxes and stuff. So we had the ability to support all this stuff. And to me, it's a no-brainer. Like I've said, I'm community based. The business side doesn't really come in until Dustin and Sean say, why the heck are we trying to do this? We got to make sure this makes sense. Well, because they deserve it, or because this is the best for the community, or whatever. But yeah, and CEO, I'm glad we're reaching the live events now, and I'm glad that event was great.
Absolutely. And what's really awesome? Taking it back to the roots, man. Just like you said, it's all about community and taking it back to the roots, and that's what works, and that's what jives with people. And the one really cool thing about Hitbox is it's kind of become the noun. I don't really know how to describe this, but for example, technically it's a bandage, but we call it Band-Aid, right? The company has become the noun. And same thing with Hitbox. It's I don't play on arcade stick, I play on Hitbox. And that just goes, that's the sign of a really, really good product. And everybody that I've ever talked to, everyone that Aquaman's ever talked to, anybody that's been on the Kolosseum, anybody that plays, when they switch to Hitbox, they don't go back to pad. And we know fighting game players are very peculiar or particular about what they're playing on to get those wins. And every time they go to Hitbox, they don't go back. So the product is there, and it's absolutely awesome. But now I kind of want to switch over and learn a little bit more about Cameron and kind of dig into your thoughts about something. So maybe just an NRS, but for the most part, I was talking to Aquaman a little bit about this, where as soon as a fighting game, for example, hits the 3-month mark of being released, everyone's like, we're over it. It's old. It's dead. We're done. Right? But you're very heavily involved in the Melee scene. I mean, that's a game that's been out for 15 years or something like that. What do you think it is? Geez, 2 decades, man. What do you think it is about Melee specifically that 20 years later, after the people that made that game probably aren't even around anymore, no updates, no nothing, what do you think it is about Melee that keeps it so quote-unquote relevant after 20 years?
Oh, wow. That's a big question. I think something that nobody really actually mentions, which is really important, is that Nintendo and Smash Brothers are big. So there's a large market of people to draw from. So that helps out greatly. But that's not something the Melee or Smash community can control. But what we have been able to control, I say we, as if I've done anything about it, is I think there's a blessing in the fact that Nintendo never supported anything, and it was that it allowed a ecosystem of community-based cooperation to work. And I think part of it too was, you have the pre-YouTube and early YouTube days where people would upload matches, and that would help out with connecting communities and all that stuff. Because when YouTube started blowing up, I think that's when we saw a pretty big growing Melee scene as well. because everybody would upload their matches there.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that there was such a large group of people going into it and so invested in the game, because the game's good. It is my favorite. It is my favorite game, Melee specifically. And whenever you get into a game like that and you really love it, you will do anything you want for it. And when you have the large pool of people and you have that community cooperation, just the talent will draw out automatically. It doesn't have to be forced or anything. And I think that's what the Smash community got really lucky, is having a handful of people that were just really good at what they did and just happened to be volunteers. And I really do think that, not having Nintendo tell us what to do at every corner was good in that regard, because it allowed us to do the things we want to do. And we had grassroots events that were reaching 300 people in the 2000s.
Yeah, and that's insane. Looking back, 300 was hard to hit 10 years ago at a major offline event with any major game that was out, whether it be Street Fighter 4. Mortal Kombat still struggles to hit around 300 at offlines, but it's crazy what you just said, and how I've been around since the kind of current competitive NetherRealm community came around, which was like 2011 when Mortal Kombat 9 dropped. And when I look at our entire community and I look back, everyone that was around since then, we always look at the glory days. And the glory days, resonates with something you kind of said, which was back before they officially supported the events and ran it themselves and Pro Tours and put the money up, and how crazy or how different the community was before that, when we were all pulling each other up and it was all grassroots and it was all, passion for the game and love of the game and coming together over anything. And then the money came in, and then the rules came in, and where I'm going, right?
Yeah.
And so I've personally felt that, and what I wanted to ask you is because I don't follow the Smash community a lot, but I did see that for the first time ever, Nintendo's getting involved. Are you worried? Is where I'm going to go with that.
I've been hurt too many times to count. So I have a mitigated optimism, is the best way I can say it. This is the best news we've heard regarding Nintendo and the Smash community, I think, ever. But like I said, mitigated. I want to hold back on my excitement with it. And if I can talk on your point about the money coming in and stuff with the community, I think that a lot of the issues maybe when that happens is the people who are running the show or managing the show aren't from the community, and they don't understand how the ecosystem works, or what you need to incentivize or reward or whatever.
Yeah, or maybe even what the community even wants, or like how they want to compete, and all there's so many little things that can definitely go into that.
Yeah, and for example, this is a new thought of mine, but I do want to share it with you guys, is I don't necessarily think tours are the best way to go about things. If you're a developer trying to support a community, I don't know what the solution is. I don't know what's better. But I guess in short, a tour does help with like sort of news cycle stuff and content, but there's a lot more things that I think can be done that support the community. And I just think community-driven stuff is just going to be good in itself. The money, I think, comes later.
I almost like to think, just exactly what you were talking about, that the tours, they give you juice for, X amount of months during the year, and then when it's gone, you just watch the community wither and die until there's something else.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
it's like it's like they give you a lot and then they leave you hanging, whereas maybe it might be better to just support less but longer.
Mhm.
you know um but again, what the actual answer is, I don't think we know yet, because it's obviously still going on. And
Yeah, and well, certain I don't know what else to say here, but
yeah.
certainly the answer is not having too many rules or regulations when you're trying to run events for the community. There's reasons why they do what they've done, and there's things that they like specifically, and you have to at least understand the community very, very well to make really good rules.
Yeah.
That's what I'm going to say about that.
And I'll also say, as I won't try to get too crazy with this one, but you know, at the end of the day, again, from my experience, I don't know Nintendo or Capcom, or any of these other big developers, Bandai Namco as well, super well. But there's always someone way at the top that could be like, nope,
Mhm.
and or it has to be done a certain way, or you
Mhm.
can't you can't say certain things, or shift a say a certain narrative about the game. Whereas at a community level, you know I can only talk to Mortal Kombat, but we could sit back here and say fuck Jackie Banner to hell and back, but can't say any of that. That's really
Yeah.
fun. But all that's what's really fun about a grassroots event, and an event like the Kolosseum, where we don't have those rules, and we don't
Mhm.
have a company like Warner Brothers saying, please don't mention any of this or that or that or that. But at a grassroots level, it's you can resonate more with your audience
Mhm.
by
Yeah.
by what they feel, right? We all
Mhm.
feel it. Nerfer. Just, but just like really
Yeah.
really
You always
like
have to throw it in
like
there.
like really little things
Yeah.
like that. But that's my point.
Well, and I think what I want to point out is that is very good for the community, but I think being reflective as a community is good too.
Yeah.
Um, I'm not, caught up on that whole aspect of Mortal Kombat scene at least, but I know how toxic, for example, um, a large group of people can be towards people who main specific characters
Oh yeah.
or specific play styles. I'm not saying that's necessarily a bad thing to dislike that. It's there's that positive feedback loop that can be really dangerous to a community overall if that continues.
100%,
You
100%.
know,
And it could be a lot of things too, even down to the fact that I like to curse, every once in a
Yeah,
blue
yeah.
moon, because something's just so amazing that you're like, that was fucking incredible. Or something as
Hmm.
simple as that. But you also do have to know your audience in that regard too. If
Yeah,
you're for Smash, the audience could be a lot of the younger generation, and then you're kind of like, okay, I get it. But MK,
yeah.
people getting their spines ripped out.
Yeah, exactly.
one thing that I want to talk about. I know that Aquaman has something that he wants to ask you in terms of Hitbox and Mortal Kombat specifically.
Ooh.
But before he goes there, one thing that I want to make sure that the people listening kind of caught is maybe it just speaks to you as an individual or whatever the case is, or maybe the culture of Hitbox. I don't know which one came first, but you're able to kind of flip negatives into positives, and I've heard that twice so far in speaking to you. The first one being where you're like, I hate social media. But you
Hmm.
found that little ray of sunshine in there where you're like, I like the art aspect of it. And I think that's super important because it's really easy to just be like, I don't like it, I'm not doing it. But if you're able to find something about it that you like and you can kind of reinforce in your mind, like, this is a good thing, and it also helps
Hmm.
the company you're working for or whatever, that's super important. And the other negative that you flipped on its head was you said that Nintendo gives Melee no support. And then you were like, but that's the best thing that could have happened. Like, I guarantee you, anybody, like, as soon as MK stopped getting supported, people were like, we don't get any support. It's so bad, this, that, and the other. But you're able to find, again, that little piece of positivity in there that you can flip that negative on its head. And I think that's super important for anybody, whether you're a content creator, player, human being, whatever it is. If there's something negative or something you don't like or something that's perceived as bad, just try to find that good in it. And, that speaks to you as an individual, which I really just wanted to get that point across. But I know that Aquaman definitely wants to ask you something specific now that he's been itching to ask. So please,
It's
Well,
Yeah,
can I
absolutely,
yeah,
Cameron.
add to that point real quick?
please.
Hmm.
Yeah, I think it's personally, I think it's a personal thing for sure. I remember my mom telling me when I was a kid growing up, All she ever wanted for me was to be happy. So that ended up being one of my focuses, is to find ways to be happy, and maybe
Yep.
turning negatives into positives is part of it. Another portion of it is I really like philosophy, and so I try to think things as thoroughly as I can. And with that, I want to find the positive out of it. I want to take something from it that I can use, you know. But in to give credit to Hitbox, what we do here a lot is pick things apart and figure out what doesn't work and what does work, and find out what can be innovated on or what can be improved. And I think that's I would say that's part of the culture here. And one more thing, I know Aquaman, you want to mention, you know, the other question. I think Mortal Kombat is probably in the best position it can be right now, not having the direct support. I think this allows the community to push the game, and it allows new players to hop into a game that is stable, and they know how to, all the information's there, and there's no pressure on becoming the best, because there's no pro tour to be the best at. So I think Mortal Kombat is a really good spot, especially moving into whatever NRS does in the future. The players you get now that are getting good now are going to be the ones that are going to be the best going into the next game.
See that? Flipping negatives into a positive. I like this guy, man. This is great. I love to hear that, especially in this day and age, man. You don't get that. It's really easy for people to just shit on something and be like, nope, I don't like it or whatever. But right there, man, you just said it.
And
flip it on its head. Love it.
And Cameron, I mean, you started this episode with something that I say word for word. You know, why I do what I do is because I want to bring people together to experience the same thing I got to experience, you know, and give them the chance to experience that, and try to give them the best experiences possible. And so even us as organizers have to kind of shift with the times too. You know, every series I've done, I think I've changed the format drastically. Very drastically. And this last one was because I sat back for months. Even Flashyy can attest. It took me a long time to put this one together, because I would write out pages of a format and go, all right, this sucks, and then throw it away. But
Scrap it. Yep.
but I wanted to find a way to make someone that comes in can get the most experience possible in the least amount of pressure situation possible to get their foot in the door. And that's what this current Kolosseum that everyone's watching right now, shouts to everyone on YouTube, is about, because all of the play happens off stream. They, you know, there's no 0-2. They get to play for hours on end against the best in the world in a pressureless situation, to try to bring them in for when the next game drops. They're like, okay, I'm in there, and that's what I love doing as well, is just bringing people together. And I want to give you a shout out for doing the same, man. And my question, which you segued kind of perfectly into, at Hitbox, putting things together, taking them apart, finding what works, finding out what doesn't work. Has there ever been a conversation at Hitbox that you know of that has, I guess, let me take a step back. You don't see a lot of Hitbox players playing Mortal Kombat. You know, you kind of said to yourself, you may have been a little bit surprised when we had some guests on that were Hitbox players. We had a Hitbox player win on the Kolosseum, which I didn't know until afterwards. He was like, hey, I was using Hitbox this whole time. And I was like, whoa. Because Hitbox has always been a little tricky for Mortal Kombat, in that we have a block button that's really weird, and it's in a really weird place. For most people, if I were to play Mortal Kombat on Hitbox, the block's going to be right here with my ring finger. That is weird. It's weird. It's unnatural. I don't like it. I know a lot of other people don't like it. And has there ever been a conversation to try to maybe find a way around that for Mortal Kombat specifically? But I do say that it's hard to commit to something like that when Mortal Kombat is kind of on-off with Injustice and all that fun stuff. But has there ever been that conversation?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Especially, you know, with the cross-up that was released, that has button remapping on it. And we actually have a profile or layout built into it that uses the old arcade sort of layout in it, where it's like the
block is down.
Triangle.
Yeah.
So it on the right hand, and so we we definitely put a focus on that, but it's a lot of that stuff when it comes to layouts or anything. When you've been in this space for a while, you understand that a lot of people's, how their posture works, or how they like to place their hands, or their hand size specifically, can really affect how a layout feels, when they're playing. So it there's a lot of potential answers to fix that issue there, where what do you do with blocks specifically.
Yeah.
And I think I might be a pretty good person to ask this question, not because I have any true experience with Mortal Kombat specifically, but my main controller is a Smashbox, which has button remapping, and I have only met one person ever out of the hundreds and thousands of people who play Smashbox, hundreds that have asked what their layout is, that have had the same exact layout as me. And this is in a game of 26 characters, roughly 8 that are used in tournament. So it's a kind of, closed off sort of section of hundreds of people playing not very many characters, and nobody having the same layout. I just want to bring that up because I think that's important to talk about when it comes to that sort of stuff. And there might be a case where a certain specific button layout, the physical layout itself, may not be conducive to something like that, or the game, like you said, you have Mortal Kombat and Injustice, both NRS, but one has a block button, right? And using the mechanics of the game plus a block button, there's so many things to take into consideration. Having that answer is difficult. So I guess in short, yes, we've thought about it a lot, but I think people are very adaptive, and they just need to adjust to something new, basically.
For sure. And even I wasn't aware of the customability. I don't know what the right word would be. The custom aspect of it. And when you pull it up, I hope that Flashyy, do you think that we can pull up that product when he talks about it as well?
Or the cross up?
Yeah.
Or the Smashbox? Either one. I'll put all three
both.
up.
Yeah, both.
Yeah,
both. That's fine. Because I think that's awesome information to get across, is that people can, again, if they don't like, that particular layout, they can try to play with it and maybe find their own, because you talked about it. And I can admit this to you here. One of the things I struggle with, because I'm currently trying to learn Hitbox, is that my hands are fucking huge. I have some of the biggest hands I've ever seen on a human being, and so, maybe I might try that and see if there's a way to kind of get my right hand out a little bit more, or something like that. So now I'm interested in that product. So I appreciate that, Cameron.
Yeah, there's so much you can do, and really, like, even placing your hand in a specific way on a controller can do a lot for you too. There's a lot of solutions, that's for sure. And I think Hitbox has a good array of selection when it comes to that stuff too.
Well, I think with the combination of the customizability and all the different games that you guys are covering, and one thing that's really cool about Hitbox is I checked your guys' YouTube channel out. You guys put actual tutorials on YouTube with the hands and everything, and the game above it. Chef's kiss, man. That is a beautiful. Whoever thought of that on the marketing team, or
whoever thought about that is a genius.
And they do it on their Twitter too. Like, bro, that is. I wish more.
When a character comes out for a game, they're like, "This is how you play that character on Hitbox." Boom. There you go. Shove it in your face.
Talk about SEO and whatnot. You are just gonna rake in views, but everyone's trying to learn the new character. You just put out a video like that, and it's rock solid. I think Hitbox has a very, very long, profitable lifespan here in the fighting game community. You guys got an awesome product, and to the team over there, you guys are doing really awesome stuff. So if you could relay that to them from us.
That. Yeah, I'll let them know.
Cameron, thank you so much. I think we can call it there. That was a perfect little selling point for Hitbox as well, guys. Definitely go check them out. The links will be down below. Cameron, do you have any closing thoughts? Any shout outs you want to give? Where can people find you? And what do you got going on? Because I know that you're involved in some events even as we speak.
Yeah, so well, you could find me at Hitbox Cameron. That's on Twitter. I don't have any other social media to share there because everybody knows I don't like social media. Um, yeah, I guess what I can say is to everybody watching this, anybody who listens to this, focus on the community, be positive, and do the good work. If you're caught up in other things like only wanting to make money or trying to impress somebody else, that's gonna be your downfall in the long run. So focus on doing what's good, and yeah. And what as far as what I'm doing or what I'm working on in the future, um, we know what Hitbox did with arcade controllers, innovating those. My goal is to help innovate the FGC and competitive gaming in other ways as far as community goes, events and stuff like that. And that's where I'm putting my focus at.
Beautifully said. And could you just shout out your Melee scene? I believe you said it's in Vegas, right? What are you guys? Is there places that we could watch that or anything like that?
Yeah, you can look up, I believe Vegas_Melee on Twitter. That is I think our main hub. Yeah, that's where you're gonna find most of the information. I believe that our Discord is linked on the page there as well. Yeah, they're having a great time. It's a small community now after the whole pandemic, but yeah, they're having a good time.
That's beautiful. Amazing. Everything's going to be in the description. Check out Hitbox. Check out Hitbox Cameron. Check out Vegas Melee. All that good stuff. Cameron, absolutely awesome talking to you, man. That was a really good time. Really cool to hear that community perspective as well. We really appreciated that. Appreciate everybody watching as well. Please sure to subscribe to the Kolosseum YouTube channel. Go subscribe to the Hitbox channel too. They got some really good tutorials over there. Even if you don't have one, start to learn how to use one. But anyway, that wraps it up here. Aquaman, show it one more time for the people. Thank you very much. Very sleek, very crisp. That's the Hitbox right there. We're going to catch you guys next week for another episode. We'll see you then.